The future of progressive radio. This is the Dean Obadala Show on SiriusXM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live Wednesday, October 24th. So much going on, obviously, but the top story is the bombing. And right now, to help us make sense of it, understand it, break it all down, our friend Aisha Moodie-Mills, political strategist, social impact advisor, does so many things here all the time, kicking butt on MSNBC. She was named one of Route 100's top African-American influencers. And I think you are one of the top influencers, my friend.
Well,
so how are you?
Dean. You know, today has been a real struggle, Dean. For whatever reason, I could not take my eyes off of the television, and I'm just like generally frustrated with the whole of what's happening in America and Trump. But today, just really
tell me
really
why
got
you're
to
frustrated.
me.
You were sharing something here before we went on. Your frustration with the mainstream media, which I think left and the right, a couple of things we can actually bond on if we wanted to. One is frustration with the mainstream media. Second is most Trumpers I speak to would be okay with getting rid of big money in politics, like getting rid of Citizens United. You actually have some on that thing. But what is your frustration today?
Well, a couple of things. So my first frustration today is the fact that I sat and watched ongoing coverage of the, frankly, limited conversation about the bomb crisis and situation because we still know absolutely no more than we knew at like 9:30 a.m. when I turned the TV on.
Right.
And for the media to have this ongoing drone of nothingness throughout the day and not one thoughtful conversation about how completely absent the president had been and no response or reaction to the complete negligence of Melania and then his remarks at the White House, which lasted about 15 seconds and kind of acknowledged it and moved on, really frustrated me because this is an opportunity to actually talk to the American public about like, here's where we are. And when we're in a state of crisis, we don't have a leader. And let's have a conversation about that. And they didn't do that. And I'm also just kind of like really ticked off with CNN right now for even airing Donald Trump at his rally.
Yeah,
After all of this
today,
today, why are you even just showing this? Because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I mean, let's be honest. With CNN, according to NYPD, it was a live bomb. Meant people could have died at CNN. People I know. I mean, I write for CNN weekly.
Right up the
I
street
go
from
on
here, literally.
Right.
Up the street from here.
I don't know what's going to come down. I mean, I watch former FBI experts on TV saying it's all likelihood it's what it seems. Someone who likes Trump and hates all his enemies sent these bombs. I don't know, though, if this is the beginning, if this is coming attractions or this is a one-off, that the intensity of the midterms and someone just got too much. And is it one person? Is it a cell?
And that's the thing. It doesn't matter. And that's my point is I've been so frustrated today because we're having the wrong conversations.
What should we be having? Let's have the right one on the show for a change.
The right conversation that we should be having is the fact, like I'm sitting here looking up at the Fox News headlines, guys, and what they're saying is like, oh, somebody, targeted Democratic politicians. Wrong. Two living former presidents of the United States had essentially assassination attempts happen on their lives today, in addition to other officials. Screw what party they're from. They're Americans, they're patriots, they're leaders of our nation. And we are not having an actual conversation about the fact that there's an assault on Americans. That's like, I mean, I could give two damns
on
if
our
it's
soil.
If it's a rogue dude or if
George
it's a
W. Bush, the father and the son. We would be saying this is outrageous. This was the most coordinated terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11, in that it was in various places at the same time, and more targeted than 9/11. That was to kill anyone they could find. But when you think about it, to go after Eric Holder, to go after the Obamas, the Clintons.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz,
which oddly it seems they've gotten returned to her, but Maxine Waters. And to do this, and CNN via John Brennan, but ultimately their goal was CNN. This
and it could
was
be
the most
connected to George Soros's the one that he received yesterday.
And we keep forgetting to mention that one, and that's very true. And Donald Trump's today, his statement, and I didn't play because I try not to play too much of Trump on the show. His statement today, he has 10 times more passion when he's denouncing Maxine Waters and the CNN and the NFL players than he had in this statement where he said, the idea of that. Where was his statement? I had it written out. I want to play it, that we have to come together and send one very clear, strong, unmistakable message that acts or threats of political violence of any kind have no place in the United States. Threats of political violence have no place. And here, Lauren, let's play a little bit of clip number 1 to remind people. Remember that Donald Trump just said, unmistakable message, acts, or threats of political violence have no place in this country. Let's hear a reminder, clip number 1.
Knock the crap out of him. Like to punch him in the face. Would have done well, but I would have been boom, boom, boom. I'll beat that.
I don't know if I'll do the fighting myself or if other people will.
Maybe you should have been roughed up.
And we can keep playing it. This is from
a
myriad of rallies through the time. And just last week, Donald Trump mimicked, act out, a member of Congress, Greg Gianforte, beating up a reporter and getting the whole audience to cheer how great this is. This is not in a vacuum. And just on August 30th, Donald Trump tweeted again that truth doesn't matter to the media. They're totally dishonest, enemy of the people. And if you truly believe they're the enemy of the people and you love Donald Trump, why would you not attack them? If you really believe they're the enemy of the people and they're on our soil, it's not why would you attack them? Why wouldn't you attack them?
Exactly. And the thing is that, we can talk about Donald Trump, but Republicans generally have never taken any responsibility for the fact that they have incited this kind of violence. That clip is just so poignant. Don't forget Gabby Giffords, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who was shot because Sarah Palin did the same thing. She had all of her bullseye targets up on all the crosshairs of all the people who she could shot. And you know what? Somebody actually did and say, hey, I'm going to go do what Sarah Palin said and shoot them. Donald Trump has said, go after these people. They're crooked. They're dishonest. We hate them. Beat them up. Literally throw them out of here, like you should kill them. And now look what's happening.
Well, Donald Trump's entire campaign from day one, coming down the escalator, has been one of fear and hatred and attacking Latinos then and immigrants then and then moving on to Muslims. And the list goes on. And we're going to talk about his new proposed rule with transgender Americans. We just had Congressman Mark Pocan on, who's co-chair of the LGBT Equality Caucus, so we addressed it. What's remarkable is the silence of Republican leaders. They should be having a unified press conference with Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan and the leadership standing up together and saying, we want to make it clear to our base that, yes, Election Day is less than 2 weeks away, but there's no place for bombs or bullets. It's just ballots. And they are silent. Marco Rubio, a few have tweeted, no, this is your moment to step up. You can get massive press conference, and it'll be a great contrast to Donald Trump, who, again, today, only as an afterthought. He had a whole opioid conference or event going on. And that's what this was about. He should have had a standalone press conference on this issue to make it clear there's no place for this whatsoever. What do you think the Republican leadership just being silent and being complicit again in this?
Look, the Republican leadership, that's a complete fallacy. There is no leadership in the Republican Party,
right,
or in general, except for this buffoon that is Trump. Here's the thing, is that at this point, they've all been completely neutered. The base of the party is not their base. It's Donald Trump's party. And so, of course, they're going to kind of sit on their hands and they're going to hedge their bets because we're 14 days out from the election. And they don't want to do anything to tick off the base.
That's right.
That isn't their base, because they want to keep these people. So they don't care if bombs are going to incite them to come out, if it's going to be bullying and beating people up and just being vile. If that's what incites the base, let it be so. They're not going to try to quell that energy because, frankly, it's the only energy that they have right now is hate. It's vitriol. It's evil going into the midterms.
And listen, let's get that clip again. We have that clip I sent you from Ari's show that just happened in Wisconsin the very day a bomb sent to kill the Clintons. And let's be clear, and I like how you put it, these were an assassination attempts on Michelle and Barack Obama and on Hillary and Bill Clinton. These were assassination attempts on Eric Holder and on Maxine Waters. This is the biggest coordinated terrorist attack on U.S. soil since 9/11, and I'm not being hyperbolic. Call me and tell me another one as coordinated as this. And here they are at the rally tonight in Wisconsin, right before Trump gets up there. And let's hear his crowd. At this point, this is the base. The base is angry. They want to imprison their political opponent. So physical violence against a political opponent is not a far stretch when you are happy with politically imprisoning your political opponents. I don't think this ends even with Trump. I think this is unleashed in ways that the idea of enjoying this cruelty, enjoying the idea of speaking in terms of imprisoning political adversaries. Where do we go as a nation?
Well, we cannot emphasize too much how Trump has literally unleashed the most divisive and the most unsavory of who we are as Americans. And that is the real tragedy of this. It'd be one thing, the reality star dude got elected, ha ha ha. Like, right. Yeah, we've had wrestlers be elected in Minnesota, like, right. Oh, ha ha ha. But no, this man has literally unleashed the nastiness of who we are. And frankly, I in my heart believe that it's actually a small minority of the people of the United States of America, of our population, but they're certainly the loudest. And because of the way that politics works and the way that gerrymandering happens, they actually get to have outsized power. I honestly got to tell you, Dean, after, today and just literally the last 2 years, I don't know where we go from here just yet. I do believe that it gets a little worse before it gets better, and that makes me incredibly sad, and we should all be fearful.
Do you think worse in the next 13 days? Because to me, and we were talking about it earlier on the show, I mean, if there are some Trump supporters who want to make things even harder, they could start sending bombs to polling locations to scare Americans not to go to vote. And to places where Democrats tend to be, they would send them to urban areas, of course, targeting people of color. I can't put anything past Trump. I cannot put, because I always tell people, think, what would an authoritarian leader do in another country? You have a coordinated terror attack. What they would likely do is try to suspend civil liberties, suspend an election. You have to think like these authoritarians. Now, Donald Trump hasn't hinted at that yet, and we'll see at some point he might pivot to that. And I just want people to be aware of that so you're not caught off guard. I don't know how we protect ourselves, but you cannot rule out with Donald Trump anything. And he likes the Sisi's and Erdogans and Putin's and Mohammed bin Salman in Saudi. He likes these people. And these people use terrorist attacks for their own political gain. And I don't know yet how he'll do it, but I know he will get to that point in his brain because that's how he works.
Yeah, and I very much believe that he or some of his people knew about this orchestration. It's not a surprise that it was only Democrats who were targeted in this. At the very beginning of just kind of the evolution of what was happening and like people starting to piece together, oh my God, there's one over here and one over there, there was a question and kind of a myth that was pushed about whether the White House was received one as well, which was
weird thing that came out
some
for a
weird
short
thing
time.
which ended up being beat back. Like, no, they're not trying to attack the White House too. This is clearly a coordinated effort by some people who are aligned with Trump, and you have to imagine that he's given a wink and a nod and a good boy to whatever community is doing this, and that's the point of dog whistles, right? So he's going to get up at this rally and he's going to say something, but then not say something as a way to have code that is like, I'm slapping you on your ass, thanks so much. Sure, we're going to keep locking her up. You guys keep doing what you're doing, and I'll make sure that no one gets in trouble for it.
And if anyone's listening and going, well, that's just outrageous, remember after Charlottesville, after a white supremacist terrorist attack, his reaction. Very fine people. He defended it over and over. Just this week, a few days ago, he announced he's a nationalist, understanding fully in the context of Donald Trump saying he's a nationalist. It's not like I'm saying I'm a nationalist. A guy who defended white supremacy, who refused to denounce David Duke, who retweeted white supremacists during the campaign and
it's the
as
ultimate
president.
Dog whistle.
Right.
The ultimate
This is what
inciting of this white supremacist base. And, let's be real. We all know that Donald Trump is not particularly bright. He's not particularly thoughtful. So he certainly doesn't have a deep analysis, policy, ethics, values, or otherwise on the difference of globalism versus nationalism, right? So clearly his only connection to what does it mean to be a nationalist is this idea of his trope on what it means to be pro-American. But to be clear, making America great and his idea of America is defined by white supremacy. It always has been. And I know I come on your show and then your callers are like, what the heck are you talking about, Aisha? How come everything is about like white supremacy? At the end of the day, that's what he's saying. I am a nationalist because I only believe that people who are like me, generally white men, because they don't even care about women, right?
White Christian, straight
deserve to be American, deserve to be lifted up in this country, and everything should be centered around us.
And today, to make, if anyone had any doubts, he tweeted about Europe. They should have had their immigration policy different years ago. I'm sure they would have been so much happier now. And again, when he was in Europe, he meant only white immigrants. He didn't want the brown ones coming in. And that's who Donald Trump is about. And to me, the stakes are too high to be PC or play games or be like, well, maybe he meant this. No, we know what he meant. And I think it's so important this time to call it out bluntly and not play any games. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. That's what he's about. He's not going to burn a cross on someone's lawn. He's not that kind of white supremacist. He's one who believes in the superiority of white people.
But here's why it's worse, though, right? So when you know who the devil is, you can kind of skirt them, right? So if you know this guy is probably going to burn a cross, you're not going to move that community or whatever it might be. I'd rather have the bigot in my face telling me they're a bigot because I know how to manage them. But the liar and the thief and the crook who is constantly underhanded and undermining, who is literally in bed with people who fuel themselves off of hate, but then tries to smile and say, oh, look, I have my token Negro that I'm friends with. That's the person that can do the most damage. And that's the problem. And we talk about, just one more thing. I talk about this a lot, guys, because folks who listen to this show, I would argue, I would really believe in my heart that the vast majority of white America despises racism, thinks that this kind of vitriol is horrible, but are not persuaded enough to actually start having conversations with their friends and to do something to intervene. And the thing is that we will allow a fraction of the nation that are white supremacists to prevail with their evil ideology if all of the good folks stand around saying and doing nothing.
Yeah. And to me, I've, the whole thing about what we're living through in Donald Trump has been so personal. And I've shared this last week on the show, and I'll share it again with you. Before Donald Trump, when I wrote articles about politics, I never got death threats. Before Donald Trump, I never feared for my own safety, sincerely feared for writing an article. I write for CNN every week, his place that he hates. Every time I write, and I write weekly attacking Donald Trump, calling out the real stuff, I get hate mail. Sometimes death threats, mostly go back to your country, that kind of garbage. I'm born in Jersey. In any event, idiots. But I have had death threats by the neo-Nazis for calling out Donald Trump, who they love. We live in a unique time that is on some level frightening, but we cannot allow what their goal is. And their goal is to make us cower and be silent and surrender. And that's how they win. So when people talk about, I'm afraid or I'm fearful, I get it because I've had those same feelings. But we have to make those feelings fuel you to keep fighting, because if we don't fight back, they win. Trump wins. That's how the evil prevails when good is silent. And Martin Luther King had a great quote where he said that I'll slightly paraphrase, but the greatest tragedy is not the horrible comments of those people that say horrible, terrible things. I'm slightly paraphrasing, but actually the silence of our friends is the main thing. And Edmund Burke had a similar famous thing about all you need for evil to prevail is good people to be silent. I'm slightly paraphrasing. That's the idea. It is harder to step up. It is easier to check out and go, you know what? Forget it. I'm just going to watch the World Series and worry about the New York Giants, which I do, and they suck. Or keep fighting this fight. And every night I come on here with my goal is to inspire listeners to keep fighting because the stakes are too high, and I'm doing this fight because I am so grateful to this nation for accepting my Palestinian father and my Sicilian grandparents to make a better life here, and I will not allow this orange monster to destroy the promise that my grandparents and my father came for. So no, it's very personal. So they can send every death threat they want to me. They're not going to silence me. I don't care what happens to me. I'm not worried. I'm not going to quote Martin Luther King about I might not make it to the promised land, but because I'm not that courageous as Martin Luther King. But I still think we have to keep fighting. And if we don't, this is the calling of this generation. And are we going to step up and do the right thing? Or are we going to be silent and look back and go like, well, I remember when America used to be like? Because they win. That's what happens here.
Yep, exactly. And you know what I've been realizing, and thank you so much, Dean, for all you do and for putting yourself on the line for all of us. I find that people get paralyzed because it's kind of a fight or flight, right? And so what I want everybody to consider is that you don't necessarily have to fight the way that we fight. Just be woke and be engaged and be participatory, right? Get your fingers out of your ears. You can't just like close your eyes, stick your finger in your ears and say, I'm just going to watch Game of Thrones and like everything will be fine, because that's actually not the case, right? That's actually, not the case at all. And so the question becomes, how can you just live your life in a much more conscious way that knows right from wrong and that says this is actually wrong and I'm not just going to sit here and allow wrong to happen, right? You don't have to be a warrior necessarily in the street, but you do have to like speak up and be conscious. In the same way that if your kid is going down the wrong course, you're going to course correct them.
Sure.
Right? Course correct your friends, course correct your family, course correct your coworkers, whoever you need to course correct. And you can do that genteelly, but you cannot just sit around and like play boo-boo the fool.
I was looking for a quote while you were just talking about that. Someone named Daniel Moodie-Mills, who might be connected to you, Aisha Moodie-Mills, said on the show once before about James Baldwin. And I love this quote: to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in rage almost all the time. And I know exactly what that is about, and I never knew what that was about before Donald Trump. And I have that during his campaign. And now, and people go, why are you angry all the time? I go, because of Trump. Yeah. That's why I'm angry. And you know, I feel this palpably. I am, as a Muslim, I'm in my Malcolm X stage of my, like, all right, we got to take a break. We come back, we'll be more angry. We'll try to take some, all the phone lines are locked up. We'll come back, we'll take some calls as well. So if you're on hold, if you're not there, because some people have been waiting a long time, we'll try to get to you. If you're not there, then drop the call. Like, they're not even there, they won't even know. Let's take a break, come right back, chat with our friend Aisha Moodie-Mills right after this. You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, where we crush Trump's lies every single day.
On Sirius XM Progress 127. Welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
Welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live right here with Aisha Moodie-Mills talking about the election. I just want to play a clip. This is Mayor de Blasio a short time ago asked about the so-called that these bombings are a liberal hoax. He was asked by Jake Tapper. Let's hear clip number 4.
On the right, some of President Trump's most prominent supporters, at least in social media, are suggesting this is all just a liberal hoax.
Well, talk to the NYPD and the FBI and they'll tell you it's not a hoax. This is a real thing. The bomb that was removed from the building right by here was a serious bomb, and that's why it's now at a secure facility of the NYPD and ultimately be transferred to an FBI facility. Now, this is the real thing. As to the atmosphere that's been created, look, it would be wrong in this moment to start pointing fingers and calling names, but it's right to say creating a peaceful, respectful approach and a peaceful, respectful society starts at the top. So whether you're talking about the president or any other elected officials or prominent voices, people need to start preaching peace right now. They need to start talking about treating each other with respect. Especially the attacks on the media have been corrosive and unfair.
So, Aisha, Trump's never going to have the passion in condemning this bombing. We know that. He already gave a statement. He read off a teleprompter. He mailed it in. It was like reading an eye chart. It meant nothing. His base knows it means nothing. He didn't even tweet a condemnation on Twitter, at least not before the show. He just retweeted Mike Pence and go, I agree with him. So that's wink, wink, nod, nod. Do what you want. I want your enthusiasm, your energy. Try not to blow anything up, but hey, things happen. Should we as Democrats, as progressives first, be doing something to increase the peace and the love? Is there something we can do in this nation to fill the void of the Republican leadership that's not there?
You know, that's such a great question, Dean. And I was thinking about this actually the other day when Elizabeth Warren kind of had her whole debacle where she's essentially trying to position herself as someone who can take on Trump, right? If she runs for president. And it makes me nervous that some of the Democrats who are intending to run for president, instead of being inspired by Barack Obama's sensibility around hope and change and collectiveness and bringing people together and a bit of humility and like this sense of dignity that we can all share no matter where we are on the ladder, that they're coming at it like they're trying to fight in the same way that Trump is fighting by saying, I'm going to be just as tough and I can be nasty and I can spit fire back at you, right? I don't think that we're ever going to beat him at a spit and fire game. One, because the Democrats just suck with messaging, period, right? We've always been horrible with messaging. So I don't think that is a winning strategy. If progressives, if Democrats just try to spit fire and play by the same playbook. I do fear, though, that there is now an appetite among the electorate that votes. And let me be really clear, because so many people have been turned off that we're desperately trying to get them energized, but they've been turned off because the rhetoric is a mess. But among the folks who are on both sides, who always show up, right, who are very reliable, there's now become an appetite for sensationalism. And that makes me nervous because I don't know who, from a moral obligation, we all should be more civil. I don't know who has the opportunity to really break through in that way, because I can't name one Democrat right now, at least that will be in a position to be the leader of our party that unites in that way, that I think can kind of bring a message that is much more hopeful and less, I will also punch you back in the face. I don't know who that is right now.
I wondered, do you think if Barack Obama was a U.S. Senator for 2 years now and would run on his platform of hope and change and appealing to the best angels of all of us, he could defeat Donald Trump in the climate we live in today?
I don't think that there would be a such thing.
You don't think he would get the nomination?
I don't think that there would be a climate this way that would then afford Barack Obama to be nominated. What's interesting, and this is the thing, it's hard for me.
You're saying Democrats want a fighter?
No, I'm saying that we can't do that backwards design.
Or the media wouldn't. Go ahead.
We can't do that backwards design, because we have to understand that the exact climate that we're living in right now is in response to a Barack Obama presidency. We were all moving along and growing and evolving, right? Mm-hmm. We had Deval Patrick, black guy, was governor, right? I mean, we were kind of moving and growing, right? As a nation, as a society. There are lots of issues around race, etc. But we were in a period, I would say, of racial calm, I guess, and is a way to describe it. Politically, in our narratives, in our conversations, it wasn't just throwing flames and dog whistles in the worst way. And that's how we were able to have a Barack Obama galvanize the moment we were in and really bring our imaginations into something that was more decent than we could ever have imagined. What we're seeing right now with Donald Trump is the rise up of vitriol to the fact that we had that. And so I can't imagine a reverse design, because as bad as America has been, I was just joking earlier that we thought John Ashcroft AG was like the devil and that he was going to bring back Jim Crow laws and like imprison all the black people. Like it's funny, like during the Bush era, we've always had issues, right? As people of color, as religious, as Muslims, as just being religious minorities. But there was a time that is different than now, when we could have a Barack Obama and everything that we're seeing is in direct reaction, like knee-jerk reaction to that beautiful time. So I can't even imagine where we go in the sense of I don't know who we have on deck that cuts through this.
I interviewed Nancy Pelosi's daughter today, who said to me, she just did a new documentary. No, Alexandra, the filmmaker, who has a documentary coming out Monday on HBO, and she said, she traveled the country. I watched the documentary in advance. She said Trump's going to win in 2020. And I go, how do you say that? And she goes, Democrats have no one. I listed people. She said, good luck with them. And I'm like, what's wrong with you? You're Nancy Pelosi's daughter. What the hell is wrong with you? But she was just being honest, but also trying to, I think, push progressives to say she thinks you need more fighters. And I am so torn. Part of me would like someone to punch the crap out of Trump, not literally, maybe literally, figuratively. But seriously, I don't want violence at all, so I want it to be figurative. But part of me wants someone who just appeals to the better angels of us, who's going to say, I'm going to help you and your family. I'm going to make America, I almost said great again. I want to make America kind again. Yours. I want America for all is something that I keep talking about. My little catchphrase is America for all. And I'm going to fight for America for all. And so it's not going to be one group, one religion that's viewed as better than the rest, or one race viewed better than the rest, or one ethnicity. It's America for all, and that's what I'm going to run on. And maybe something like that works. You know, maybe someone like Cory Booker or Kamala Harris who can do both. Maybe Joe Biden with Kamala Harris, let's say. I mean,
think
we're just
we need a cultural revolution. I think that this is...
What do you mean by that?
Politicians have never saved us. I think that in order to shift the discourse of America, there has to be a much bigger concerted effort on the part of cultural leaders, cultural ambassadors to pretty much muzzle Kanye, right, and throw him in a ditch. Sorry,
Kanye.
but for there to be a much bigger conversation, be it coming out of Hollywood or other media or other aspects of culture, that is that voice that says, actually, we're a people who want to be connected and together. Like, we're going to be in solidarity. We're going to reject that kind of like nasty, hateful rhetoric and language. It's tricky, though, because the same culture that gave rise to reality TV as like a thing gave rise to Donald Trump. So it's interesting like how we balance that. But just like when I think about LGBTQ rights, it was not politicians who did the right thing by LGBTQ people. It was a campaign of culture that said we're no longer going to be invisible. And for people, celebrities, neighbors, religious leaders to say, we're going to actually create a culture of inclusivity and accept folks, whether or not the law does or not, whether or not politicians do or not. Right. I think that that's where we need to go, because I love Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, and, there's so many great people, but that one person, we're not going to get another person in our generation who's going to capture the hearts and the minds of Americans in the way that Barack Obama did. So frankly, what I would like to see is I would like to see more of him.
More of Obama?
I would like to see more of him.
But when you talk about a cultural revolution, look at the Me Too movement on some level was a cultural revolution. It still is. Yet Donald Trump took it on head on, and the GOP base took it on head on to try to move back the idea that you should believe women. And they want to be, you should believe the man still. And Donald Trump's record is very clear, from defending Rob Porter, his aide, who had clearly beat up his two ex-wives, who saw one with a black eye, to Roy Moore, to defending now Brett Kavanaugh with only lip service. At least he moved slightly to lip service to Dr. Christine Ford. Then he mocked her and ridiculed her for the enjoyment of his base at a rally. Yeah. So in reality, that's who Donald Trump is. On the idea of Black Lives Matters, he has ridiculed NFL players heartily to the enjoyment of his base. So this is, culturally, these advancements we're seeing that are organic, Donald Trump has made a conservative effort to push back on them. No doubt. Doesn't want women believed. He doesn't want black people to be treated equally in our system. He wants black people to be silent and know their place. That's very clear what this guy's about. And I'm not black. I'm not. You can explain to me better if that's not how you feel. But when I watch, I go, I know what's going on. I'm Muslim. He wants to ban people who worship the same way I do simply because of our religion. And if he could do a total complete ban, and I don't think he's over. I think we're closer to 2020. He tries to go back to a total ban again because his base loved it. 65% of Republican voters were all on board with that. It'll animate his base. I think he'll try to go back.
Yeah, well, that's what he's doing. I mean, he's trying to take us backwards, right? Like, that's the whole point of what making America great again is about for him, is actually taking us backwards. I mean, being a black lesbian woman, I mean, every day I'm exhausted because of the assaults on my life. As a black person, as a woman,
like James Baldwin's.
as a, I'm angry all the time, literally in a rage. But because it literally, the politics are personal here. I think that, Donald Trump is focused on the fury of riling up his base. I do believe that there is a cultural moment happening that we're seeing play out that has riled up the progressive base as well and the Democratic base as well. Now, how the politics shake out of that are different than the energy of it, as we saw with the outcome of the last presidential election. Yeah. Because the politics and the structure, and this is a conversation that Democrats never want to have, but the truth is that we've screwed ourselves. We've lost over the last 20-something years in the state houses so that we're not winning the board. We're not winning the board. We may be capturing the hearts and minds, as President Obama did, but we're not winning the board because we're not really playing the game. And the game is you got to get people elected in the right places so that you can control the map. Yep. And we don't control the map. That's a different conversation about whether we control the hearts and the minds of the people, because we saw that we did and we won technically, but we didn't win. And that's where we constantly get screwed. So yeah, Donald Trump is going to keep playing to his base because he just needs to rile up his base in order to win. He doesn't need to win all Americans, and he knows that. He's done it once. Mm-hmm. And so the question is, can the Democrats really incite their base to counter that? And I think, that's what we're going to see in the midterms, for sure in the House.
We have to take a break, but what's remarkable is that everyone who listens to this, on the right or the left, is riled up, and everyone they know is gunning to go and vote, right? But in reality, we're looking at early returns. Yeah, they're higher than midterms, but still they're in line with the presidential races, or actually slightly lower. Talking about, we might have a 50% turnout. So we're talking about this election stuff like it's the most important election of our lives. We believe it's personal. Mm-hmm. Our nation's at stake. And we might break a record for a midterm. It might have 50% turnout. I mean, modern day. Because last time it was 37% in 2014. Oh. So you had states in 2014 that had 28% turnouts. They were not even close to a democracy. You have 1 in 4 eligible voters voting. This time they might be like, oh my God, what a turnout. 52% might come out. Still meaning 1 out of 2 Americans don't see what we see. Bother. And they on either side, they don't care. And I'm sure Trumpers who are listening to this, because they do, and are like, I can't believe that. And progressive like, I can't believe it either. How do we reach those people? Yeah. This is so we got to take a break. Come back. Chat more here with Aisha Moodie-Mills right after this break. Progressive values are the best of American values, and we need to keep fighting for them to save our country.
Don't go anywhere. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. New perspectives, important voices, influential ideas. This is the Dean Obadala Show on SiriusXM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live Wednesday, October 24th, in studio here with Aisha Moodie-Mills. We really were going to take some phone calls. Maybe we could try to take a call. It's up to you. No? She's like, all right, let's take, here's Charles from Miami. He's waiting a long time. Let's see Charles, you still there, buddy? Charles.
Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
You there? Are you on speakerphone?
Yes, I am.
Please take us off speakerphone because it's not as clear. That's all. Not that I can't hear you. It's just not as clear for people at home. And you're here with Aisha Moodie-Mills. Charles, what's going on, my friend? Talk to me. Charles calls off.
I don't know. We had this conversation, I guess, months ago when I kind of told you that, hey, it's like it's almost leading up to a race war. And then I guess you also told me, well, you kind of hope that it's not. And I guess from a black man's point of view, somebody who is constantly, I guess I get to see the racist side of so many people. Sometimes I just feel like this is inevitable because so many people to me have dropped their guard. And I'll just say it like this. I'll just go back to Kavanaugh. For some reason or another, everybody thought that these little 3 or 4 Republicans wasn't going to vote for him because there's this myth out there that's also led by the media, Fox News, that there are moderate people out there, and we probably have a chance. Well, we didn't have a chance stopping Bush from going to Iraq. We didn't have a chance back then when Bush had that big tax cut. We didn't have a chance when they tried to do this tax cut with Trump. And I just think we're under some type of belief that these people can be reached and they're reasonable in some way or something is going to save us. The only thing that's going to save us as a party, as a people, is that we have to take over. We have to.
Well, we have a chance in 13 days. In fact, there's early voting in many states. In 13 days, Charles, how many countries really give you this opportunity to right the ship to a certain extent? We can't get Trump out. We can get a Democratic Congress, means we get all the chairs of Democrats. We have subpoena power. We set the agenda. We can subpoena records. We can have a lot of fun. We can have governorships that'll be ours to change things for the better for people living in those states. It's not just a game. It's not about owning Trump. It's about helping people. That's what our party's really about. At least that's what it should be. But Charles, the idea of trying to build bridges with Trump supporters, I don't know what to say. I mean, I so want to be hopeful. I don't know.
I do have this one thing to say though. There's no, like you said, there's no other country like America where you can actually turn this thing around in 13 days. But you have to look at it like this too. And this is what I'm worried about. You say we get our Democrats in there. Are they going to insist on holding hearings? Are we going to insist on holding hearings to find out if there's domestic cells in this country that's willing to do harm and do worse than what happened today? And are we willing to, and are they willing to stand up to these Republicans? Because I think what happens is get Democrats, they go in there, and the worst thing that happens is they fall for these Republicans. I guess they make deals with them behind our back.
Well, we're gonna if Democrats get elected, we are gonna press them. I think we're gonna press them because if not, then Democrats are gonna check out and not show up in 2020, and it'll be worse than ever because Donald Trump will be president again. But all right, Charles, my friend, thank you for waiting so long, and I appreciate your comments, my friend, because we don't have much time. Or I would chat with you long. I usually chat longer with people. One thing we sort of touch on, but not directly, this violence. If it's really about Donald Trump, in our history, when white supremacy is threatened, violence is a natural response to it. Mm-hmm. And if those people who are doing this, even if they're not in a Klan or a neo-Nazis group, this bombing we see, if it is coming attractions, it really is because white supremacy is truly being threatened because the demographic change is happening. Yep. I can't pretend it's not. I can't tell them it's not happening. I just try to tell them it's going to be fine. They're going to be fine. America's not going to get worse. Your family, your kids, grandkids, they're going to live in a great country and they're going to achieve what they want. Mm-hmm. But in their view, this is a threat to white supremacy. And every time in our history, we've seen exactly how it responds. Yeah. White supremacy responds with violence.
Yeah. And thank you so much for bringing that up, Dean, because we cannot forget that in our history, white men have been the greatest terrorists have wreaked the most havoc, have killed the most people, have invoked the worst domestic terrorism we've ever seen on our soil, hard stop, period, ever, repeatedly throughout history. It has always been white men who have done this. And we're seeing that again. They, for whatever reason, white men are emboldened and believe that they have the right to take up arms, to shoot black people down in the street, to hose them down, to kill them, to murder them, to come after and attack Muslims, to attack Arabs, to attack anybody who they think is Muslim, even if not Muslim, right? Which is a whole other level. The Sikhs get attacked. Oh, he's got a turban. He's a Sikh. Oh, but he's Muslim, right?
They're Muslim.
That is what white men do throughout history. And it's really important for us to constantly be reminded of that, because Trump and Republicans want to talk about these angry Democratic mobs. And they want to try to make it out to be that there is this malicious mob of refugees trekking towards, walking hundreds and hundreds and thousands of miles towards the United States to come and get us. These are women and children who have nothing, who are fleeing literally
in the caravan
violence.
you're talking about, right?
In the caravan that they're referencing that's coming up through Mexico. But they're acting as if they are under assault, when in fact it has always been them that has assaulted everyone else. One time black people said, you know what, we're going to go on ahead and defend ourselves. And the Black Panthers said, we're going to legally get some guns and we're going to arm ourselves. What happened? They killed them all. They changed the law to make it so that black people couldn't bear arms, essentially. Even though when it comes to white people bearing arms, this is like sacred, right? Second Amendment. But, you know, thank you for bringing that up, because I want everybody to remember who the real terrorists are.
Well, you know, it's concerning. I don't know where we're going, but I can tell you that our history tells us when the white power structure is threatened, the reaction has at times been violent, and I'm not hoping for that. I don't want that.
I would say it has always been violent,
right? And this very much could be the signs of that, and a specter of things to come that is really stunningly scary. For
Trump has already said he's going to sic not the National Guard, but the military, because he really distinguished between the two, on this caravan of women and children. He's going to unleash the military on a caravan of women and children.
Let's take a quick break. Come back with more of Aisha Moodie-Mills here right on the Dean Obeidallah Show.
Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. By the way, Trump tonight at his rally blamed the media because the media has a responsibility to set a civil tone and to stop the endless hostility and constant negative and oftentimes false attacks on stories. Have to do it. So he's saying, now earlier in this, he goes, politicians can't demonize each other and call each other morally defective, which Donald Trump has done even to fellow Republicans. But then to go after the media and say the media has to set a civil tone. No, you jackass, President of the United States, you have the responsibility, you have the power to set a civil tone. You're the leader of the GOP.
He actually doesn't fashion himself a leader. That's the problem, is that if he had some leadership development training and actually saw himself as a leader, then he wouldn't behave like a damn narcissist. He just sees himself as the only person that matters. He doesn't even see himself, I don't believe, as leading the people. Yeah, so...
He's about himself, right, and it's not. But to end up in any way to call on the media to be more... to less fake news is what he's saying, and that's causing the hostility. No, Donald Trump lying all the time and the media calling out his lies has aggravated some of Trump's base. Well, too bad. That's what journalists do. We are not a propaganda helpers out here. We are the job of a journalist to call out lies, and that's the way it should be. But my friend, we're out of time. It was great talking. It was a fast hour because there's so much going on out there. Aisha Moodie-Mills, we'll see you hopefully in a few weeks. If you come back in 2 weeks, it'll be the night after Election Day.
Ooh, I think I'm on deck.
Assuming I haven't collapsed.
Yeah.
If I haven't collapsed. Thanks for being on. I really appreciate it. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow night, back, all new live show right here. I think we have some candidates on running for Congress. We're trying to get a lot of Democrats on between now and Election Day. Have a great night. Talk to you tomorrow.